Hello, writers. Come write with me. My name is Mykela Greenwood, and I create worlds for mind adventures. Welcome to my channel, Write with Mykela. I'm very glad to have you join me, so don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell so you can go on this journey with me. Today, we're going to discuss a few terms or ideas, and then we will add to your story with a setting. The terms we're looking at today are infiltrate and imbue. Infiltrate as a verb means enter or gain access to an organization, place, etc. surreptitiously and gradually, or breach or enter stealthily, especially in order to acquire secret information. Some synonyms for this definition are penetrate, invade, intrude on, creep into, gate crash, muscle in on, sneak into, slip into, or impinge on. A second definition is of a liquid that penetrates something by filtration. Some synonyms for this definition are permeate, penetrate, pervade, filter through, get into, or enter. Infiltrate as a noun and in medicine means an infiltrating substance or a number of infiltrating cells. Now, how can we use this in our writing? This is a great term. Either the protagonist or the antagonist can infiltrate the other side. You could have a biological weapon that infiltrates. Anytime there is something or someone that infiltrates or penetrates or permeates an organization or an organism that could add intrigue and excitement. In Ghost Ship, there is a crew that salvages old ships in the ocean. They just sail around, they find old ships, they salvage parts. A person infiltrates their team by showing pictures of a boat and telling them he will lead them to the boat. Person acts a little naive about salvaging boats, so they don't think the person is a threat, but he is setting them up. If you've watched that movie, then you know what I mean. In Total Recall, they put a brain chip in Douglas Quaid. Basically, it was an elaborate plan for Douglas to infiltrate the resistance on Mars, because he didn't remember the plan when they put the chip in, so he was able to infiltrate. Now, leave a comment on if you watched either of those movies, or leave a comment on a movie with espionage where someone infiltrates the enemy, their enemy. It could be either way. Like I said, it could be the antagonist or the protagonist. Now, on the disease side, we have discussed I Am Legend many times. In that movie, first there was a cure for cancer, but the cure infiltrated the body and turned people into zombies. And then the zombie mutation became airborne and infiltrated other people that were not immune. Excuse me. I know we talked about that movie when we talked about immunity. There is also the 1986 film The Fly, where a horsefly infiltrates the teleportation device. Now, personally, I have not seen this thriller, but the human and fly merge in this film, and from what I understand, it was an accidental infiltration, so the the scientist or whatever, the human, didn't seal the teleportation device well enough or make sure the fly wasn't in there with them or whatever. On this channel, we've talked about prefixes, and this word has the prefix of in or in. Now, in our normal life, we filter a lot of things. We filter our water. We filter what we let young children read or watch. So here, this is not filtrated. But note, these are not antonyms. Both words refer to passing through, but they have different meanings. Filtered means to clean or remove impurities. But I put this in so you would have a little context. The actual antonym of infiltrate is exfiltrate or withdraw, which means to exit or leave, perhaps secretly. Maybe if you had a spy movie and they were getting close to realizing that the spy was the spy, then the spy would exit the other group before they harmed him or whatever. So perhaps secretly leave, but not necessarily secretly. Antonyms of filter, that was the other word I kind of threw in. Filter are contaminate, pollute, dirty, or adulterate. So the two words aren't precise antonyms, but you can see how if you can't filter through the people on your side, like you can't verify who they are and filter through them, then someone could infiltrate your side. Leave a comment on things you filter out. Leave a comment on something or someone that has infiltrated your life. And it doesn't have to be totally bad. YouTube and online games have infiltrated my life. I believe they have caused my productivity to go down. Okay. Our next term is imbue. Imbue is also a verb and means to inspire or permeate with a feeling or quality, such as an emotion, knowledge, or color. Here are some synonyms. And I want you to watch for synonyms that are shared between our two terms today, between infiltrate and imbue. The list is permeate, saturate, diffuse, suffuse, pervade, impregnate, inject, inculcate, instill, ingrain, inspire, inform, fill, charge, and load. Did you catch some of the same ones? We had permeate, pervade, and inject. Now, I didn't necessarily say inject above for infiltrate, but we had get into or slip into, and that kind of means inject. What I want you to notice is there is some overlap. So, what's the difference between the two terms, infiltrate and imbue? Both terms involve the idea of entering or affecting something. The first term, infiltrate, talked about a person or a substance and is more about penetration. And the second term talked about a feeling or a quality, which emphasizes the act of feeling or permeating. Also, infiltrate is a more negative term, while imbuing is more positive. Of course, a bad idea can be imbued, But Imbue talks about inspiration, and that's usually good. Can our inspirations be misled? Of course. So I'm not saying infiltrate is always bad or negative. And I'm not saying that Imbue is always good or positive. And as far as the infiltrate, they infiltrated Douglas Quaid into the resistance, but he learned a lot of things about the resistance to where he joined their side. So that, I don't know that you would say that the infiltration was good. The outcome was good. Anyway, the terms aren't always negative or always positive, because in the definition it doesn't say that. Now, how can we use imbue in our stories? Daniel Jackson in Stargate series was imbued with knowledge of ancient civilizations. He was inspired to study the languages. And these languages were like written languages. And this made him an expert for the show. Now, they called him in. He knew all of the hieroglyphs and all these forms of writing, or several. I don't know they knew all, but he knew several forms of writing, so they were trying to get him to read the symbols around the circle. Well, he was an expert for the show, and he definitely showed inspiration when he figured out the symbols on the ring and how to use them, because they ended up not being symbols for language. They ended up being symbols for like star locations or something, like we see the Milky Way and stuff like that. Or not the Milky Way, the Big Dipper, the Little Dipper, those kind of things. So he realized they were star things. Online chefs try to imbue us with the delicious smells from their cooking. It doesn't really work because we can't smell anything through our screens. But when we see their joyous emotion, then we might be imbued or inspired to try the recipe. When they take that hot, and you can see the steam, and they're like, that we know that they are enjoying whatever they're eating. And, oh, geez, my computer's not acting right today. Okay, so we know they enjoyed whatever it was that they ate. But we don't get to smell it. We don't get to taste it because we can't import that through our screens yet. Who knows if we will be able to later. We can do sight and sound. We just can't do the other things. I'm sure I say we can't do feeling because like the controllers for some of the games shake. So it's not totally a feeling, but it is a shake. So they can do some of that. Who knows what they'll come up with later. As writers, we need to know what inspires people and what they will imbue themselves with. Most no one would have studied ancient civilizations as deeply as Daniel Jackson. But without him... Oh, sorry. Okay. I'm going to have to use just buttons, I think. Okay. Most no one would have studied ancient civilizations as deeply as Daniel Jackson. Without him, Stargate wouldn't have gone forward. Nobody would have figured out the symbols on the ring. And they thought they needed a language person. And he's looking at it and he's trying to figure out the language. But he gets lucky because somebody was reading a newspaper, and on the back page of the paper it had all of those, it had the symbols. And it had the symbols like we know, the Big Dipper or whatever. And so he took the back page of the paper and he went and drew lines to connect the stars. And then he found the symbols. So he was able to do that. I think there was one episode. Here's a side trip. He was in an episode where he was like reliving his past, and he saw his parents, and his parents were studying stuff. So their studying of this archaeological stuff probably imbued him with the urge to learn this stuff. So that's the writers knowing their character. So yeah, it was a side trip, but how do you know that Jackson is imbued with the studying the enthusiasm to study the ancient civilizations, but where did that come from? What's the history? And writers don't always show the history of a person, but they had the opportunity in this one episode to kind of replay some of his memories, and so that you see his parents involved in the same thing. So, side trip, but it also helps us because we as writers need to know the history of our characters. So leave a comment on a show, book, or movie where one character imbued himself or herself in a subject or certain knowledge, and that helped the show go on. Idiom alert, idiom alert. Also, leave a comment on a character in a show, book, or movie that was imbued with an infectious emotion. So the first one was like knowledge, and this one's emotion. And you could also leave a comment on imbuing with color, but not sure that would be so exciting. Now let's turn to our writings. Pull out your story with a setting. We don't have a shared plot for this one. We're just going to pull it out and continue from wherever we left off. For reference, we started this in season 3.1, episode 17, and then we continued. If you check the description below, it's really hard. You have to hit the 3 dots now. 3 dots and then more, and then you will have all the rest of the episodes, and you'll have the original settings. So feel free to screenshot the setting and start today. Of course, all work shared on the channel are copyright protected, so that's more reason for you to send it in. When I read it to my viewers, that's proof that your writings are yours. And you will have a date and time and stuff like that. So send your writings to writewithmykela@gmail.com. No spaces. Pause the video. Write a scene or a page, or at least 500 words, or whatever goal you have. Excuse me, because I'm recording this like February 6th. So it's very early in the year. I think it will post maybe in 2 weeks. Okay, so pause the video, write a scene, or at least 500 words, or whatever goal you have, and come back, and I will read what I wrote. Welcome back, writers. Let me read what I wrote. Around mid-afternoon, Kahira and Enora had lunch together with Callista. A group of people knocked on the door. Enora answered as she had when Callista brought them specialty burgers from Miss Lee's Burgers. Kahira was surprised to see the group enter the house. She recognized Wolverine and Fangston and the man with the face she had seen in the photos. Kahira covered her mouth and pointed. Fangston looked over his shoulder. Okay, Pete, you can drop the illusion. Pete suddenly looked different. Fangston explained to Kahira that most of them had an illusion or glamour on themselves running when they were in the town, and they would have the same illusion when they changed to werewolves, so as not to alarm too many people. So the vampires don't actually know what he looks like? Asked Kahira. Calista looked back and forth between Kahira and the question on her face. Back and forth, and Kahira could see the question on her face. Yes and no, replied Fangston. Then Fangston took his leave to sleep in a chair while Wolverine explained things. Wolverine explained that Victor would probably know him and probably could see past the glamour, but Victor still couldn't see past a photo. He then explained the several layers that the vampires had among what they called the Revenants and the Elders, and he explained different abilities that went with each level. Sorry about this. The computer is not cooperating with me today. It's too sensitive. It goes from the print that I can read to this tiny little print, or it scrolls way up. So I'm having a little trouble today. Sorry about that. Okay. Wolverine also explained that the werewolves and warlocks and witches had similar layers or levels. So I might not be queen, exclaimed Kahira. Wolverine sighed and glanced at Honora. No, replied Wolverine. I will explain that to her later, stated Honora. You have some other topic to get to with so many here. Yes, replied Wolverine. The Overlord and his general of the wizards have given us summons. Wizards? Asked Kahira and Calista in unison. They looked at each other. And then Kahira said to Calista, I didn't hear about wizards when we were going through the levels of each group. Calista responded that she hadn't either. And Nora motioned to him. I will explain later. We must hear the summons. Wolverine motioned to a warlock. Kahira tried to remember his name, but there were so many people. The warlock stepped forward and opened the summons, and he read it. Our sources and the media have brought to our attention that the vampires are back and doing their wrongs. We require the Queen to do all in her power to protect the innocent. If there is no Queen, then we must gather together to discuss this issue. If the Queen is young or new and hasn't passed certain required tests, then she must meet with me, my second lieutenant, and my general to discuss what is possible and to make sure she stays within the bounds of our law. We do not need another black witch to side with the vampires. Our sources also informed us of the large hive of zombies that attacked Harrodsburg, as well as the protection given from the warlocks. Our sources say that a queen was there and performed a counterspell on the zombies, but the source says the one spell exhausted the queen. We do not know if this is the queen to protect against Victor's clan, or if we need to contact this queen to help our queen. We require counsel with the queen and her main coven, as well as the top 3 werewolves and top 3 warlocks. Signed, Balster Denton, Senior Lieutenant Overlord of the Wizards. Kahira stood and stared at the warlock, realizing the summons as his words reverberated through her. Part of her was saying, this can't be real, while another part thought, holy shit, what have I got myself into? My queen, started Wolverine. Hera threw up her hands and backed up. I can't be queen. I don't even know the basics. As was your mother's preference, stated Wolverine. We respected that as long as we could. Now, in light of the summons, I think it is good news. Good news? Asked Calista. Kahira looked at her sister. Her sister was younger than she was, but her sister was very protective. Yes, the Overlord knows our queen may be young or new to this, Yet he also knows how we already protected Harrodsburg, even though he clearly defines that as not our area. Kahira had been looking more to the floor, but she looked up at Wolverine. Not our area? So this fight could be happening all over the country? With possibly other elders not in stasis? Victor is an elite ultimate elder and very powerful, stated Wolverine. He was over several areas, as was your grandmother. Your mother was not as powerful, but thankfully Victor was already in stasis when your mother actually took over the queenship. Hamley stepped forward. Your mother was a very powerful witch, but she was not a match against Victor. Kahira's heart jumped and her throat constricted. She saw Callista analyzing her. Wolverine nodded to Hamley, and then he continued. He explained the decision to let their mother take over after Victor was in stasis, and that was because the number one priority of the clan was to kill the daughters before they reached their power, and the grandmother was more capable of protecting them. Kahira and Callista had tears rolling down their faces, and they embraced each other. And Nora bent her head down in her hand, as she did not dispute anything Wolverine said. After Wolverine explained a lot more, he said, "My queen, we need to respond to the summons. What would be a good time? When would be a good time?" Callista realized Callista released Kahira, and Kahira just looked at Wolverine for a few minutes. Then she looked at Honora. "Are you coming to the summons with me?" She looked at Callista. "You too. Are you coming?" Honora smiled kindly. "Well, until you kick me out of your coven, I think the summons was for me as well." Callista looked between Honora and Kahira. "Coven, does that mean 3 witches?" Nora laughed. Coven doesn't mean 3, but generally a coven is at least 3. There are other optimal numbers as well. Kahira realized the werewolves were looking to her to pick a time to meet. "Where will the summons be?" "It could be here in the basement," replied Wolverine. "I don't have the key to the basement," stated Kahira. Wolverine looked at Honora. "Did your sister seal it?" "Most likely," replied Honora. "I'm not trying to overstep." "It would have been sister. That was a problem. Did your mother seal it?" "Yep." "That's an edit." "Okay." Wolverine looked at Honora. "Did your mother seal it?" "Most likely," replied Honora. "I'm not trying to overstep," started Hamley. "We could meet here in the basement the same time as George flies to his nightly meeting and end before they come home. They fly home." Everyone looked at Kahira. Perhaps I need to make sure I can get in the basement first." She turned and headed to the narrow door that led to the stairs down to the basement. Callista was on her heels with Honora closely behind. Kahira tried the door, and it was locked. Honora squeezed between the sisters and lifted her hand up to the top of the head jamb, and she pulled down a key. She handed the key to Kahira. Kahira's mouth fell open. "I've checked the entire house for key. I called a locksmith." And Norris shrugged slightly. "I said a spell to get the key." Kahira was realizing more and more that she was in over her head. She turned to the door and slid in the key. It opened easily. Kahira found a light switch and flipped on the lights. As she descended the stairs, she thought about being in the catacombs, and she froze midway down. Okay, writers, that's all that I'm adding today. That was 1260 words. Leave a comment on how you would feel when you learned that Pete could change his face with the glamour and the photo the vampires had wasn't actually his face. Leave a comment on how you would feel about the summons. Would you feel like you were in way over your head? Leave a comment on the optimal numbers you think should be in a witch's coven or coven. I think it should be pronounced coven, but a lot of people think it's coven. I guess if you take off the C, oven is spelled O-V-E-N, so I can see how you could say coven. But if you take off the N, the C-O-V-E is cove. So, anyway, leave a comment on how you pronounce it. Do you pronounce it coven or coven? Leave a comment and on if you would have thought about the catacombs as you descended the stairs. And I don't think they actually went downstairs when they went in. They had magical ropes or something that they descended in. So would you have thought about the catacombs as you descended or descended the stairs? Leave a comment on how many words you added today. I said 1260, so how many did you add? Join me Friday for Princess of Norwin and Steigergard. Join me Tuesday for some more jargon. Leave a comment on a term you would have me discuss or your favorite term so far. There are so many words and ideas. Or if you have an idea for a writing prompt, you can leave that in the comments as well. Don't forget to visit my website, Mykela.com. Read some character bios. Send your writings and chapters to writewithmykela@gmail.com. Leave comments on your favorite characters. If you hit the like and subscribe and the bell, then other people will have a higher chance of finding this video, and we will continue to write together since your likes push the video out to a greater audience. Thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your participation. If you know someone who would like this video, please share it with them. This is Mykela with Write with Mykela. Bye for now.